Hey, this is Cameron, and welcome to the reaction log. Whoa! Alright, we got a spicy one here for you. A spicy and a special one. Guess what just happened? Rick Beato interviewed Tim Henson 2 years ago. So, you know, it's about time that we cover this one. You know, like, with titles like Redefining the Boundaries of Guitar Playing. Personally, as a classical guitarist, I think any boundary that needed to be redefined, that was done a long time ago. I think that no boundary should be redefined. Everything should stay the same forever. And anything that changes is a direct offense against what I believe in and what makes me comfortable. Well, hold on, let me get my suit. Yeah, you believe me now? Okay. Classical guitarist reacts. Hey, if you don't know anything about me, I'm a classical guitarist. My name's Cameron. I teach classical guitar lessons, so, you know, if you want some lessons, feel free to sign up for that. Email in the description, of course. I'm only going to teach you classical. Let's go ahead and jump into this one. This is Tim Henson of Polyphia. Go watch my other Tim Henson video if you want to see my, like, stand-up routine on the name Polyphia. This is Ricky Sticky getting
interviewing guitar virtuoso and songwriter from the band Polyphia, Tim Henson. But
can you be a virtuoso if you play electric guitar? Which, that's actually a thing I wanted to get into. I'm coming in. I'm waiting for those comments after that one. I just like pushing your buttons, guys. You should know the shtick by now. I talk a lot of crap on here. In all honesty, I think Tim has done a lot for the classical guitar in the modern age, because he's actually injected it into popular, like, I don't know what genre this would be. It's like, it was metal, Polyphia, like earlier Polyphia, but it's kind of transitioned into like computer music, like sorta. And if you've been following Polyphia for the last few years, he has been playing a nylon string guitar, which is more I can say about Marson. He started on nylon. He was a child of the classical guitar, and he turned his back on us. The difference between Tim and Marson started off as a classical good boy, just like we all are, right? And then he turned to the dark side. He just straight up abandoned all of his teaching, everything, and he just started playing a steel string like a heathen, and now he bangs around and makes a bunch of noise. But Tim Henson, he was born in the darkness. He has no obligation, no ties to the classical world whatsoever, and despite that, he has turned to the side of good, to the winning side, really, the side of the good, and he's just doing it just because he has a good heart. He just naturally is a good person, has a good heart, so he is playing a nylon string. And yes, I'm implying if you play a steel string, you're a bad person. So you're a bad person, and you get what you deserve. So, that being said, I have a lot of respect for Tim Henson and his style and all that. He sort of lost his way in the beginning, but he's found his way. All right, let's get into it.
before we do that, if you're new to the channel or a returning viewer, make sure you hit the subscribe button now.
Hey, that's a good point. Be sure to subscribe while you're here.
Hey everybody, you've seen him before. Tim Henson
There he is,
back.
little cutie pie. Look at that little smile. God, look at that freaking stack of Marshalls, man. Tim is in the lion's den right now. You're not safe here, Tim. What did your mother think when you got these tattoos, Tim? Can we get Tim Henson nude up in here? Oh, his bare little neck. He was a little baby there, and now look at him. Oh, God, dude. I bet your mom, like, straight up cried when she saw that. Oh, there we go. The anime Tim Henson. Heck yeah. Whoa, we got some Justin Bieber tattoos, too. Oh, Justin. I'm sure your mom cried, too. Okay, back to it. Sorry.
Being finished. I just saw pictures of Tim's studio, and I love new studios.
Pictures of his studio.
And it's beautiful. Let's talk about this new record. Let's talk about your new guitar. I love that you have a electric.
You have like a $300 electric guitar. I wonder how much his Ibanez cost. That's a funny thing with like professional electric instrument musicians. They play these guitars that are like intermediate level, I feel. Yeah. You can get the Tim Henson signature for $700. That's like pretty gosh dang cheap right there. I wonder what kind of model he plays. It must be like custom, right? Tim Henson just has a ton of model guitars, huh? So yeah, that's what I mean. I feel that he had a pretty big hand in popularizing these electric classical instruments, which is pretty cool in my opinion.
Classical Ibanez. This is really amazing.
So the inspiration came from in 2020 or 2019 or 2020. I think 2020. We were on tour in Europe and just like messing around, like hanging out before the show, and I think we're in.
Yeah, just like doing nothing, being guitar losers. I hear you.
And we went into a pawn shop, and I saw.
Yeah, like no kidding. Yeah, they were just messing around. Before a show, you went to a pawn shop. What? Were you guys just like AWOL? Like what?
This Ibanez nylon string, and it was like an S-shaped body, like as you know, an S body, like thin, super thin. Yeah. And it had a nylon headstock, and I just thought, like,
weird.
Dude, what the f is that? And I picked.
We gotta bleep that. You're losing your good boy status.
It up, and it had all the upper fret access And, you know, like I plugged it in and I was like, wow, I started playing like Polyphia riffs on it. And like I had always struggled to play like any of our riffs on an acoustic type guitar before, just because like, I don't know, steel string is really hard for me to play. And then of course,
I don't know if a steel string can be set up well enough to play any Polyphia riff on it. They all play kind of bad, don't they? They all feel kind of... It's almost like steel strings are just meant to not even be played. Like they're not even real instruments. I digress.
like there's less upper fret
Right.
access.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this sounds crazy. Like the Polyphia riffs through a nylon
Yeah, dude, you should try a fugue. Whew.
esque guitar. And so I bought it. It was like 700 euros.
It's so funny hearing that, because like as a classical guitarist, or even like any classical musician, when you hear like a $700 instrument, it's like, oh, that's like the worst instrument ever. Like a violin, like a $700 violin. No way. It's so cheap. Cello, it doesn't matter what it is. Flute, a $700 flute. That's a like low beginner model. For a guitarist, our standards are just so freaking low. Even the classical world, like I spent like $6,000 on my guitar, and that's still like affordable too. You can spend like a lot more than that. And you can spend a lot less than that too. You can get a guitar for like $3, honestly.
I need this, and I took it home from Europe with me. Just started playing with it a lot and really kind of fell in love with it. So I texted Ivan and it's like, what is this?
Oh, dude, that's such a power move. That's so freaking cool, dude. You texted Ibanez. You didn't even, like, email them. God dang, dude. I feel so inadequate listening to that. To be fair, the person who made my guitar, I also text him, so there's sort of an equivalence there, right?
And they told me it's a commercially failed model from 1998.
I thought I saw those in the late 90s or so that they had those.
Yeah, 98.
Freaking dinosaur.
And I guess there just really wasn't a market for it then.
Yeah.
Tim, drinking water over your guitar. He don't give a about nothing, dude. Look at him. I mean, to be fair, there's no like electronics or sound hole for anything to fall in. Dude, that's nuts. If I'm drinking water, we're doing that. That's the benefit of playing a $700 guitar, I suppose.
Now you just create the market, right?
Well, yeah, and it was like difficult to convince them to do that, even because they had like talked about doing it before with Tosin. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, man, like if like Tosin didn't do it with them, they're not gonna do it with me.
Dude, there was a real market for the nylon electric, huh? I love modern metal, man. Metal, I feel, is just reverting back to classical. There's all these like parallels. I feel like we kind of lost our way with like the early metal, like Metallica and Pantera and stuff. But then going into like modern metal, we've really found the right thing there.
Right. He had to build his own.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what ended up happening.
Exactly.
And what was funny was that I was telling Tosin about this as these negotiations with Ibanez were going on.
Wait, is this why he built his own or no?
Yes, yeah. Well, maybe he was already working on it. I don't know, but like he was like, dude, if they don't build it for you, I'll build it for you. And I was like, okay, man, I appreciate that. And I like legitimately thought that they weren't going to do it. You know, if y'all don't want to do this, like I get it, but like I'm gonna do it elsewhere. And it doesn't like, because they don't have a product like that, it
Right.
doesn't like mess anything up.
Yeah.
You know. Then they just came back and were like, no, we'll do it. And I was like, oh, okay. And so we went through. Well, basically, how that happened too was just like, we created Playing God, and the demo version of Playing God was what was used to convince them.
Right.
And also, like
Did you have a demo video of you doing it
yes,
too? Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
There you go.
It was the album 4 teaser
Yeah.
that I had posted like October of that year.
Yeah.
And I just went and screenshotted all the comments that said like, where can I buy this guitar? I would love a guitar
There you
like
go.
this. And I screenshotted every comment from every platform that said anything like that. And I had a whole zip folder of like 300 screenshots. And in the email, wrote like a huge email and put the screenshots in there and attached the Playing God demo. And like we told Mike, like, yo, when you go to Japan, like play this for the whole room. You know, and make sure there's a speaker so that they could like hear the bass and stuff. And so he did it, and he came back and he's like, yeah, they're down.
I'm making jokes here. That whole story is a really excellent example of it doesn't matter who you are. If you want to get something done, you have to actually put in some elbow grease and actually do it. Even if you're Tim Henson, like literally rock star guitar god of the modern age. What he just said, all the work he had to do, like he's going in, screenshotting everybody who wants that guitar, making a demo video, having to convince like a board of people to actually make this guitar that he wants. That didn't just land in his lap. And that's telling, because he's in a successful band. You kind of have to be more than a band to be successful. You can't just be really good. You also have to be like a go-getter. And like, if you want something, you have to fight for it, tooth and nail. Don't just wait for it to come around. You have to do it yourself. That's something that I need to hear too, because sometimes I feel that we can get in this mode of just like, we're just biding our time waiting for opportunity. When no, like even Tim's not doing that. That's probably why he's in the position that he's in.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, so we were really stoked on that, and we started doing prototypes.
Yeah, and this is when he was famous too. Like, he's already well famous. He already had GOAT. Like, you think he could just contact any guitar company and just be like, hey, we want this guitar. Like, shut up and make it for us. But no, it's still something you have to fight for. So, you know, nothing comes easy. And from all that fighting, we now have mass-produced and popular nylon string guitars that maybe kids of this generation will want to play because they're into, like, YouTube music bands and Polyphia is that. Techie sounding like video game music stuff that kids like. And there's probably going to be a whole generation of kids playing electric nylon strings. And I get more students and more money.
They do prototypes. They didn't do any of the neck, the inlays or anything like that in the prototypes, right? Or do they?
I didn't have the design then.
Okay.
So yeah, they didn't have.
Now,
it
was
on
the
those.
width of the neck? This is what I was really curious about. This about the
That looks like a pretty wide neck.
old guitar that you had bought in the shop in Europe, and how the neck width is in comparison to this one. Are they similar?
The neck on that one is very much an S.
Okay, I was wondering
Neck.
about that. Yeah.
What is an S neck or S body? I've never heard these. Is it this? S style? Oh, so he found one of these with a nylon neck on it. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay.
It's like way too. It's like uncomfortably thin.
Right.
It's
Wow, that's accidental Mario coin there. That's surprising coming from him. He thought it was uncomfortably thin. I bet that neck was like paper thin.
really odd to have an S neck with nylon strings.
Right.
Like, and so like it's just a bit jarring in general, the
Yeah.
experience, you know. So I can see like why.
Why people didn't actually buy it in the first place, right?
You know, because it's you're really taking two things that are so far apart from each other: the super shredder guitar and like a classical guitar, and
Right.
like
Some would say that classical guitars are also super shredder guitars. Yeah, I tried.
you know, more of like a
Well, it's
C
the same.
shape.
Yeah, but the width of the neck is similar to what it's exactly what a classical guitar would be, pretty much.
Yeah, the SEN was what it was called. Wasn't like that. It was
Yeah.
like very much like an electric guitar. So, but yeah, so the first prototype that they made had like the heel shaped way down.
Okay.
And it was like just a one piece, and it had like I think it was just like a bit wider,
Yeah.
and it was a useless guitar
Yeah.
because they had accidentally glued the bridge on in the wrong spot.
Okay.
Oh, you know, I've talked crap on like Cordoba. They talk about how they have these like luthiers and they're like handcrafted guitars. We're talking about a literal prototype for a guitar. This was made by a luthier. Like, it was probably handcrafted. Like, it was a prototype. They didn't have like the factory set up yet. Their genius luthiers literally glued the saddle in the wrong place. Like, that's what I mean. Like, I swear to God, like when I got my Cordoba C12, which is like, I think like mildly handcrafted, like to some degree, like it's not just like a complete factory guitar. There was so much wrong with it. Like, there were nicks in the polish, like half the frets would buzz. Like, I remember in like Julia, Florida, you would hear that note like buzzing if I played like a note that would make it sympathetically vibrate. Like, that shouldn't ever happen. This is a $2,200 guitar that we're talking about, and it just had these issues that you would expect from like a $99 guitar from Guitar Center. No, so that really goes to show you, the luthiers at Ibanez, they glued the frickin' saddle in the wrong place. I don't want your Ibanez sponsorship, whatever. We're all about burning bridges here. That is what we do. What's the final bridge that I'm gonna burn? Maybe it'll be like, I'll burn the bridge between like my own audience. Like, that'll be the final one. I'll just go back to being like 0 subscribers. That'll be like the heat death of the Sore Hands channel. That'll be cool.
That's
So
not good.
it couldn't
It's not
be
good.
intonate.
What a horrible thing that the Ibanez trained luthier did. How horrible.
Okay.
And they couldn't just take it off and move it.
Okay.
So like they, you know, I'm
Yeah, they glued it down. I'm sure that luthier like couldn't figure out how to loosen it or anything like that.
playing the guitar and I'm like, dude, this feels awesome. Like, it's so easy to play and like it's very, you know,
It's just microtonal, Tim. They're forcing you to go microtonal on your next album. Just lean into it.
For as thin as this guitar is, it's very resonant.
Whoa, it has a sound hole up there.
Yeah.
For that, you know.
And he was drinking water over that sound hole too. What if he spilled water in there? I mean, who am I kidding? He probably has like 7 of these things, less than $1,000 bucks.
But I was like, dude, I can't get it to intonate. And they took it back and they were like, oh,
we put the bridge in the right spot.
yeah. And
Nobody there is an expert. It's just a bunch of businessmen, and nobody actually knows how to make guitars.
so they gave it back to me and they're like, well, it's a souvenir, I suppose. And they were like,
It's like, I don't want this. It's a piece of crap. It's a worthless guitar.
we're gonna make a new one. They made the second one and the bridge was in the correct spot. This guitar, you can see it on my YouTube channel. It's the white bread looking guitar.
Yeah.
It looks like bread.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
Can we get an image of that? It's funny, you say it looks like bread. It kind of just looks like my guitar. Like, it just looks like you have a spruce top. I don't mind it. Yeah, it just looks like a spruce. I think it looks cool.
yeah, do the top white and just leave the rest of it like unfinished. And then it ended up coming out like bread. We actually ended up gifting that guitar to Steve Vai, which was like kind of like a appreciation thank you for being on our record and just being like such a cool dude and like kind of like a mentor figure in a way, you know? So we had like sent him that, and so he's got that one now, the bread guitar.
Okay.
So there were 2 prototypes. Then they were like, oh, well, that factory said they can't like make it anymore, so we found a new factory, and then they sent me this one. Okay. And by this time I had decided, like, you know, I want to do like an entire line of Tree of Death guitars, and so I told them to stick the inlay on here and make it black because like people were just like really making me feel weird about the bread guitar.
I'm so sorry, Tim. Okay, I think we can end it there. So there's a ton of interview left. I'm probably gonna go through the whole thing at some point, as long as it's not boring. And yeah, you know, like I said, classical guitar lessons. Feel free to hit me up on that. Email in the description for those. And of course, head on down over to Rutan's Delight. Pick yourself up some Sore Hands merch, honest Sore Hands merch, and check out the podcast. Check out everything else. Watch another video. Watch the other Tim Henson video if you like. It's a pretty good one. Yeah, and we'll come back to this later. So, I'll see you then.
Hey, this is Cameron, and welcome to the reaction log. Whoa, alright, we got a spicy one here for Ori, a spicy and a special one. Guess what just happened? Rick Beato interview. Tim Henson, 2 years ago, so you know it's about time that we cover this one. You know, like with titles, like Rick redefined the boundaries of a guitar playing personally as a classical guitarist. Think any boundary that needed to be redefined, that was done a long time. A long time.